Terrific Network special event. This is Door to Door Week.
Door to door, I have the doorman himself, Charlie Williams. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Jim.
So, at the point of people hearing this, we're saving your episode for last, so this will be Saturday. So the premiere will be theoretically tomorrow when we play this one. So, what are your thoughts as to like how the whole thing came together from the first day that I said, Mr. Williams, I've got something I want you to read to now. I know it definitely blows my mind to think it was almost like a year ago.
When I know it doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
No. And now, here we are, and a bunch of people are going to go see it.
Well, I remember when you sent me the script and asked me for my input on it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was going through it, I just remember thinking, this is so good, I don't have a lot of input on it. I mean, it was an original idea. It was that kind of episodic story that I like so much, like, you know, like Trick or Treat or Creep Show. And really, that's kind of what it reminded me of. So, I mean, I was in, and if you remember that page of suggestions I sent you, there weren't a lot of suggestions there.
Yeah.
Because it was already cinematic. I think I even told you that.
Yeah.
That I have the picture of these characters in film as I'm reading it. And sometimes with stories you don't get that, you know,
Yeah.
you don't get that impression.
Yeah.
So I thought it was terrific. And then when I said, well, what role am I going to play, Jim? What role you got for me? And I remember you saying, you're writing back to me, well, if you're up for it, I think you'd make a terrific doorman.
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa. This film the doorman is important because he ties all the stories together.
Yeah. Now he's the meat and potatoes of it, that's for sure.
He is. He's the crypt keeper. He's the little Sam in Trick or Treat.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps things going, keeps things moving. So, anyway, from that point on, I was so excited because, you know, being a horror film fan all my life, I was just, you know, ecstatic about having the opportunity to actually participate in one and to take such a major role in one.
The thing that's funny about you that you brought to the role is you brought like a sense of humanity to him that you don't really get to see until you see someone speaking the lines. And that goes for all the characters, but the one thing in editing the thing with Andrew and Jordan and I always laugh about is you have some of the lines and your delivery of the lines. The one that pops out immediately is when you tell Lynette that, well, maybe your head is just too big. And you kind of just lean back and smile, like laughing to himself. And we're just like, it's funny that this guy, who's not even human anymore, he's like in between, can still make himself crack up at the expense of others. Like, that kind of a stuff that you brought to it is what gets us through editing. The Ashton, I'll be back for that date.
That was a fun scene to shoot. But although I think Ashton was a little creeped out by that one.
But yeah, man, the character is such like he's so tragic in the sense that, and once the book gets written, you'll see why he became what he became. But
and I think I told you before we started shooting that when I read your first chapter of the novelization of the film, that when I had a little more background on the character, it kind of informed me on how to portray him. Yeah, because like you were saying, he's no longer human. He's kind of in this kind of in-between world. He really doesn't function as a human being, but he's not really doesn't really function as just a spirit either. He's in this kind of nether world where he walks between the two worlds.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, he doesn't take pleasure the way a normal person would take pleasure.
Yeah.
He probably just feeds off whatever the situation is. He doesn't really have this this human foundation. He kind of he's reactive.
Right.
Because he's just a shell, basically. That's all he is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's definitely just, he's a vessel doing his, what he's been sent to do.
Exactly.
It's funny that the way that it casted, I've gotten so many comments from so many different people that the way that the cast turned out is perfect. Like, the people who play the roles that they play are all just like, they fit in, and it's funny to sit there and think about that. A lot of the casting was more happenstance than anything else. There was you that I knew. I wanted to be the doorman. And then there was Jordan, I knew was going to be involved. She was hard to figure out. Dave, when Dave came in red for Gene, he was a sure-in.
Yeah, Dave was definitely.
And Shalita.
Had that character.
Shalita for Gluttony.
Right.
And Chris Brown and Chris Benson for their two roles.
Right.
But the rest of it was kind of choose between the 2 or 3 different spots, and so the fact that we have gotten that comment from the people that have watched it is just like, where did you find these people? I keep getting asked, and I'm just like, it's more like they found a post on Facebook and said, I want to be involved. But if you could pick any character, do you think, which one do you think fits that when they were playing it? Like, you were like, man, I'm talking to Monica, or I'm talking to Katie, or I'm talking to Gene.
You know, I think we talked about this before, and I told you that you seem to have nailed all the characters. So it's really hard for me to choose. And we were talking about this before, that I, as a cast member, I'm kind of the one who connects all the different stories together. So I get to interact with all the different characters.
Yeah.
And I think in each case, each one brought their own special, their own special talent or personality to the role. Mm-hmm. So there was a good meshing there. Mm-hmm. The one that I knew I would have to really play, I'd have to be a little stronger, he'd blow me off the screen, was Dave. Because I thought, if I don't react in a little more forceful way, and I think that one is the one probably where I did seem a little more threatening, or a little more wanting to dominate that character, it wouldn't have worked, because he was such a strong personality. And I know he's done voiceover work for commercials and things like that, so I think it kind of, that kind of experience showed through.
That scene with you two in the car, there's a line that you say, he says, "You don't know me."
Right.
And you come back with, "By now you should know exactly I know exactly who you are." Yeah, that line is the one time, I think, in the whole movie where the doorman, like, you just
so
said it. Says, like, listen, shut up for a second and just do this. Whereas the confidence that you bring to the doorman, in the sense that he already knows he's got them.
Right.
And then, but with Dave, he didn't. And so to see the other side, it's almost like the demon side come out of the doorman was pretty interesting to watch.
And everybody else was a pretty easy sell, like you were saying. Dave was the one who, in the character, was the one that called me every name of the book, who, was going to be the hard sell. So finally, it was a case of just, okay, well, I've had enough of him telling me,
Yeah.
what he thinks of me, I'm going to tell him what I think of him, and
Here we
he's
go.
going to go ahead and take the bait.
Easiest sell would have to have been Ashton.
Yeah.
It's funny, we were watching a movie yesterday, and all of them either tell you, go away, like, get away from me. And with Ashton, it was getting some laughs because you ask her, can I just come in and show you what I'm talking about? And she literally just, yep, come on in. And we were like, wow, like she really is with like nothing to lose in this role whatsoever. But yeah, I think that what are your thoughts going into, I want to say Sunday, but into tomorrow for the premiere? Like, what are you most excited about?
I'm excited because I think it's going to be a nice way to recognize the efforts of people that put in so much work into it. And again, I can't say enough things about how you as a director and writer brought everything together and chose the right people for the parts, and got Andrew Kane and Jordy Kane to be that production support behind you. And I think that it's always nice when you see the finished product, and it's kind of like you get to appreciate the fruits of your labors. And I think that's a celebration. So I'm thinking this is a celebration of all the effort that everybody's put in, and it's a way for people to be recognized for what they've done. And I've heard a lot of the supporting cast talk about how much they're looking forward to it, what a special moment that is.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that a lot of people have said is they're excited. The number one is they're excited to see the whole thing finished. And I think that for Andrew, Jordan, and I, that's definitely part of it. But even more so because we've now seen this film more times than I think I've seen any other film in my lifetime. But to be able to finally get to show it to you guys, that's where it comes into almost like a theater production feel at this point, when we've been sitting there editing it all together, and now finally it's opening night, and finally somebody other than us in this little computer lab is getting the reactions. That'll be cool.
It'll be nice because my character being the one that kind of unifies the stories, everybody else, and we were talking about this before too, has their own separate stories that they were a part of. I really kind of got to see everybody doing their, and we were talking about this before too, has their own separate stories that they were a part of. I really kind of got to see everybody doing their acting. I mean, I missed some of the demon scenes that were shot separately, but as far as the people that played the roles of the people that were tempted by the Doorman or signed their soul away with the Doorman, I got to see those performances, and I think that's neat. I think everybody's going to appreciate experiencing what I experienced.
Because it really was 7 shorts.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, for the most part, the only cross interaction was you.
Right.
And so, a lot of people are, I know, excited to see the whole thing because of that fact that it wasn't like a production. But it's on any film. I mean, like Star Wars, the people aren't there every day type of thing. And so when you get to see the final product of, this is what they were doing when I wasn't there, I think that'll be cool to see everyone's reaction to the stuff that they weren't involved in. I think that my number one is the fact that everyone's going to be there. It's almost like a high school reunion type of feel.
It is going to feel like that.
But,
with booze, though.
But I think that it'll be a good day, and I hope, Charlie, that you get to be in another one of our films.
I'd love to be. In my age, you kind of wonder, you try to get involved in things that kind of stretch you a little bit. And I think I had talked to you before that I had been in contact with Nick Cutter, who's a well-known writer of horror novels. In fact, he's just starting to enter that atmosphere with Stephen King and Clive Barker and those kinds of people. And I told him that I was going to do this role. I messaged him that I was going to do this role, and he goes, "Well, Charlie, you always have to stretch yourself no matter how old you are." So, the point being that I learned a lot from doing this one. I learned a lot about film acting, I think, from doing this one, as opposed to just acting. There's a lot more to it than just memorizing lines, which, was a more difficult experience than I thought.
Yeah.
So it's a different experience. Almost every person I acted with in the stories said when I started speaking my lines to them, it kind of threw them off because you were interacting with a person rather than just reading lines on the page.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of get used to that too, that you have to react with the person rather than just recite some meaningless lines. You have to put that human element into it.
I would agree with that. I think that threw a lot of people off for the first couple of times. But yeah, man, we will see tomorrow what comes about. I would say that the Horrific Network, we're going to do some kind of a podcast with the majority of the cast, and just a massive roundtable with everybody in the near future after the premiere. But until then, man, Charlie, man, thank you for everything.
Hey, Jim, thank you. It was a blast.